beautiful soul, and welcome to the very first episode of my brand new podcast, Inner Landscape. I'm Lara Anstey, and I'm so grateful you're here. If you're curious about natural ways to heal, grow, and reconnect with your inner wisdom, then you're exactly where you need to be. This podcast is a space for us, a space to explore alternative therapies, natural healing, and the kind of conversations that shift something deep inside. The conversations that remind us we're not broken, we're not too late, and transformation is always possible. I am a mum of 4, a yoga teacher for over 16 years, and someone who has walked through the fire of trauma, anxiety, and PTSD to find healing through natural methods, yoga, breathwork, meditation, and so much more. At 51, I've never felt more alive, more balanced, or more free. And I want to share these journeys with you, not just mine, but the wisdom of incredible healers and guides who are doing transformational work in the world. For our first episode, I'm absolutely thrilled to welcome Duane Raats. Duane is a hypnotherapist and consciousness explorer based in South Africa. He works with anxiety, emotional blocks, identity shifts, and nervous system regulation through hypnosis and subconscious work. This is going to be a conversation about going deeper, beyond the surface, beyond the stories we tell ourselves, and into the wisdom that lives within. So take a breath, settle in, and let's explore together. Hi, Duane. It's really lovely to have you here.
Hi there, it's lovely to be here. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so for someone completely new to your work, how would you describe hypnosis in a way that feels grounded and accessible?
Okay, so hypnosis is not what everybody or the norm would tell you. Everybody's got this idea that you're going to swing a watch in front of someone and then they're going to go into a trance, right? That is not what hypnosis is. Hypnosis is any state that you occupy. So if you are in a state of joy, then that's hypnosis. You are in a state, right? If you're in a state of sadness, you're in a trance of sadness. So when someone comes to see me for whatever the issue is, I basically just take them out of that state and put them in a state of solution. So they come with a state of problems, and I help them to place them into a state of solutions. That's hypnosis. It's not a woohoo something. You use hypnosis all the time. I mean, I'm sure most people have felt this. You drive your car, and then all of a sudden, the car in front of you stop, and you see the red light, and you stop and you realize, like, how did I get here? I can't remember driving past all the buildings. I can't remember turning left. I can't remember doing a stop there, waving there. That was you being in a trance. You were in hypnosis. It's actually called driving hypnosis. So that, in a nutshell, that's hypnosis. You're always in some or other trance. Whatever the story is you tell yourself, that's the trance you find yourself in. You're in a trance right now. I'm in a trance right now, right? We got a context here. We got a setting. You over there, I'm over here. We've got a podcast going. That's the context. As soon as you shift your awareness, you just moved yourself from one state to the other and did your own self-hypnosis.
Wow, that's really interesting. I've never thought of hypnosis like that before. What first drew you into exploring the subconscious and altered states?
Okay, so the very first time I saw a stage hypnotist on TV when I was still like, I was probably like 8, 9, 10 years old. And I saw this guy do all these funny things with people, and I thought, that's exactly what I want to do. If I can do that, I mean, anything is possible, right? And then I started doing some research. Well, my dad did some research for me. Back then, internet wasn't accessible to everybody, so he would bring me like stuff to read that he would download in the day at work. He'll download some things of the internet, and then I would go home and I would study these things, right? And I can remember the first time I tried it on a friend and it didn't work. Then I tried it again and it didn't work. And I did that about 50 times and it never worked. And that's when I went to go study. and I went to South African Institute of Hypnotism and I did my year study there.
In my work, I often see how the body holds patterns that people aren't consciously aware of. How do you see the relationship between the body and the subconscious?
The the unconscious sits in the body, right? That part of you that digests your food, that part of you that breathes, that knows how to and when to send oxygen to the brain when needed, that's all unconscious activity. So you're 100% right. In your work, you will find that a lot of pattern sits in the body, and through doing the yoga, you will actually release, you'll find you can release some of those emotions, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's purely because it sits in the body. So the body is unconscious. Your breathing, like now, your breathing, you realize I'm talking about your breathing now. So you becoming consciously aware of it now. But prior to that, you were not aware of it, right? So your unconscious is always looking out for you. It's always there. So yes, in yoga, you're definitely going to find you can do a lot of therapy just with yoga. No words, nothing needed, because that's suggestion within itself. The body moving is suggesting all of those patterns to become more to the surface and for you to become aware of.
So, in a way, what you're saying is yoga is also a state of hypnosis.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. Look, when your people come into your for a yoga session, they will be in a certain state, and then there will be an outcome state. When they finish with the yoga, you can ask them, they will feel different. They will feel a switch or a change within them. So yes, if you're moving from one state to the other, you've got hypnosis. So if you're moving them from not relaxed to relaxed after the session, you did hypnosis without knowing it.
So, in a way, like everything we live is in a state of hypnosis.
100%.
So, what would you say is not being in a state of hypnosis?
That's a very good question. Are you asking within the person himself? Are you talking collectively, or you just mean the person himself?
Yeah, if a person was not in a state of hypnosis, what would that look like? Would that be like a newborn baby, for example, or
Look, while a newborn baby is just unconscious, there's no conscious activity. There's no there's no conscious faculties at play yet, right? That only happens later when language starts. As soon as the that kid then learns language, it can start thinking for itself because you need a language in order to think for yourself. So thinking only starts with language. So the conscious mind only comes online once the person or the kid or the baby um, learns language. Yes.
okay, so I've got something very interesting for you then. I remember being born and I remember having a thought, and I've thought about this a lot since because I obviously learnt English, but
Yes.
the thought that I remember having was in English. And I wonder if that's because now I speak English, therefore I translated the thought that I had into that language.
Yes.
But I had a thought. I was consciously aware. I was not in my physical body, as in I could feel anything physically. I couldn't feel anything. But the thought that I had was, oh no, now I have to breathe. And I'm clear as day. I will never forget it ever, ever. So what is that?
So that is, it's still you being completely unconscious. It's a feeling. Remember, the unconscious works in symbols and feelings. It only communicates in symbols and feelings. So you obviously you experienced that experience and you had to put it in words, right? So afterwards, when you're now an adult and you got the language and you can communicate, you thinking back to that experience, that feeling, right? Like if I, to give you a good example, if I regress somebody and they go way back to a age before they can talk, they're not going to talk. If it's a real regression, if it's a not a surface level regression, if it's a real regression, that let's say you're taking the person to before the age of 3, I have to then suggest to the person that I'm still talking to you, the adult, while you're experiencing the kid, so that we can communicate. Otherwise, there will be no answer. There will be no communication because the kid is completely unconscious. So what I think happened is You remembered a state, you remembered a experience, and now you're calling it with your language, with your own language, now that you got a language and you can talk. But the memories are there, the experiences are there. I just think you used words now to explain it.
I just wondering what level of consciousness I was at that point. At what point do we become a human consciousness rather than, I would describe that as being part of unity consciousness still, because I've come from what I would describe as a source, a
I
place,
understand.
or more collectivity.
Yes, I understand. I think it is your um, everything, like I said, everything is unconscious before you learn any language. So I think it's all just 100% awareness. Because as soon as you teach a kid language, and as soon as you tell a kid, like Alan Watts says, he says, as soon as you tell a kid that's a bird, the magic is gone. As soon as the kid learns that that is a bird, there's separation. There's I am here, I'm Laura, that is a bird over there, we are disconnected. That's language does that. Before you had language, everything was magical, right? As a kid, you could see a tree and it's swaying in the wind and it's magic, right? But now that you've got language, it goes, I don't even notice that. That's boring. I need something to stimulate me, right? That's what language does.
But
And that's why hypnosis is so great, because with hypnosis, I can go and evoke those experiences again. I can help you get back to those resources.
okay, that's really amazing because that magic is something that I was going to say when you said that. That magic is something that we can maintain, even though we recognize, well, we are in this illusion of separation, but you can still hold on to the magic. And I personally experience that all the time. And it is, I, when I feel it, it does feel childlike. Not the traumatized child, but the joyful, that beingness of a child. Um, so are you suggesting that people can come back to that through hypnotherapy?
100% you can go back to that. That I use, look, as soon as the person comes with a problem, I go and I access their resources. Because as soon as I take that problem and I put it with all the resources you got, it will start to dissolve. Because there's more tools than what's needed for the job. Because all the resources are there. So something interesting you mentioned now that you've experienced that, right? That you've experienced that childlike, that play-like experience. So what was it that you experienced? Like if you can tell me now, like what was it that you experienced that
Oh, well,
felt like that?
this is how I live my life. So I will get that feeling every day when I wake up and I look out onto my garden and I see the cherry blossom at this time of year, and anything in nature really, just the joyful, amazing complexity of simplicity that nature is, and that's what makes me feel like that.
So let's do a little exercise.
Mm-hmm.
So think of a time in the past, something really good happened. Something really where you felt empowered, where you felt that you've got all the resources you need. Can you think of a moment like that?
Okay, well, recently I felt really good when I've realised that the business that I've been taking so long to set up is working, and it's going in the right direction.
Okay,
And
so when
from me, all me, like nobody else did that, just me. Yeah.
cool. So I'm going to ask you a few questions, right? So when was this that you felt this? That you experienced that?
Well, last week
So okay, it was last week, and where was that?
here at home,
At home. Where in your home?
in this room, in my living.
In your room. Okay. So last week, can you remember which day?
Friday,
Okay, so last week Friday, you felt that feeling and you were in that room,
mhm,
right? So what happened just before you felt that feeling?
I saw that lots of people were interested in what I was posting.
Okay. So let me get this straight. So last week Friday, you were in your room, and just before you got that playful feeling, you realized people are looking at your work and things are going up, right?
Yeah,
Okay. And then you got the feeling.
yeah,
You got that feeling now?
yeah.
How did you do that?
Just by remembering
That's right. Do you notice whether it's growing?
in my heart.
Is it growing now?
Yeah.
Okay. So now that it's growing and you're sitting with that resource, if I just give you one small little problem that you've got, you can think of any small little problem, it's going to dissolve because
Mm,
you've got all the resources, right?
yeah.
So that's just a little example of how hypnosis works. I will go find and access your resources, and then we're going to have a look at your problem again, and you will find that it dissolved on its own. Because here's the thing, here's the caveat. The solution always piggybacks on the problem. In other words, if you come with a problem, I know you also come with a solution because you're bringing me the lock, but you're also bringing me the key. Because if you're the one that started the problem, you're surely the one that has the solution, right?
Yeah.
It's always the cave we fear to enter that holds the treasure we seek.
Yeah. 1,000,000%. I love that. It's so true. Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting, actually, that little exercise that you just did, that's a meditation that I have taught as well. So you experience this feeling, and then anything that you put in there, it's like alchemy. It's like you put it in, and
Yes.
it dissolves. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
yes, that's exactly what we do, what I do at the Alchemist Lab. We transmute whatever that problem is into gold, and you do it yourself.
Okay, amazing. I love that. Okay, so I just wanted to talk a little bit about anxiety regulation and the modern life. So, a lot of people today feel dysregulated or anxious without fully understanding why. What are you seeing in your work?
So the reason what I've experienced is, look, anxiety is normally based on a future event, and depression is normally the past, right? But what happens a lot of the times is some or other traumatic thing happens in the person's life, right? It's normally before the age of 10. And the reason for that is before the age of 10, your guardians or your parents are your resources, right? You get fed by them, you get clothed by them. That's your security, that's your safety. So if though that resources are not there, then that's your lifeline. That's like death to the person, right? So something small can happen in your past which was traumatic to a 3-year-old, but it's not traumatic to the adult Laura, right? But the unconscious was trying to just safeguard you and keep you safe with anxiety so that it gives you the feeling so that you don't have to experience that event again. But the event is over when you were 3 years old. It's not necessary anymore, but it compiles. So over the years, at the age of 12, something else happened, you got anxious again. But it stems from you before the age of 10, right? So, and especially in today's, just to get back to the question again, in today's time, one of the biggest things that I think is a big problem is because of social media and because of all these short clips, right? All these dopamine spikes. We get a lot of dopamine spikes. You look at a 10-second, eventually you only want 2 seconds because 10 seconds is too long. I want to get to the next video, right? That happens. That's dopamine.
Mhm.
So what happens now is when the person's anxious, there's no dopamine, right? Cortisol goes up, a lot of other chemicals go up, and you feel icky, right? So the dopamine goes down, right? And now the person sits and looks at a lot of these clips. So they're depleting all of the needed chemicals to feel good, like dopamine. They're depleting that by looking at all these short little clips, and they've got an anxiety issue as well. So
Mhm.
now it's a double whammy. You don't have the chemicals to support you because you're anxious, and you're sitting on these short little clips. So by the time you get into bed, there's no dopamine, and now the brain just starts going, right? And then the other problem with that is the person gets stuck in a loop then. They're stuck in a story they tell themselves. I am anxious. Now you
Mm.
identify with it and you are an anxious person where you shouldn't identify it. You should rather say, I am now experiencing anxiety. I'm not anxiety. I am experiencing some anxious moments. That's already way better because now you you're disconnecting from that emotion. Where most people would say, "Oh, I'm so flippant, I'm so bloody anxious. I'm always anxious." You tell yourself that story and you're going to get stuck in that loop, right? Rather tell yourself, this is just an anxious moment. I don't identify with it. It's just a passing moment. It's just a storm that comes and goes. The storm never stays, right? And that's one of the biggest realizations that I help my clients with for their daily life is to, as soon as those thoughts come up, is to interrupt them. It's called a pattern interrupt. So you
Mhm.
interrupt the pattern. You don't try and fight it. You can't fight the storm, right? You sit with it, you acknowledge that it's there, you don't identify with it, and you change it again. I'm in charge. Anxiety is not in charge because that is not who I identify with. Here's the new me. I am calm. I'm regulated. Now you're changing that. Now you got out of that loop. You're not stuck in the loop anymore. And then it will get better every time you do that. It's like you're training your brain. You're making new neural pathways within the brain every single time you do that. Yes, it's difficult in the beginning because it's now just a gravel road, but eventually we get to tar that road. And that's the road you'll be traveling on going forward.
Do you give your clients tools that they can use to help them break those patterns as they go through their day?
Yes, yes, that what I just mentioned, that's one of the tools.
Mm.
And then I always give them a audio for the morning and an audio for in the evening, a custom audio for that person specifically for what they're dealing with, just so that we can help the person in the morning to have the right suggestions given. Because if you just wake up in the morning, you give yourself the worst suggestions ever. This is a bad day. This is how it starts, then you're already stuck in that loop. So yes, I do give audios so that we can get the person in the right state again, so that he can do his daily work or whatever it is. And then yes, I give them little tools for during the day as well, which eventually compounds, and the unconscious knows this is the new path to follow. Then it becomes easy. And then it's empowering because then they realize, wow, I did this. I got this right. I'm not stuck in that anymore. What else can I do now?
Yeah, amazing. Um, how can someone begin to work with their nervous system in a more supportive way?
Okay, so that's something a little bit different. That's something I actually learned in the last couple of months. Is it's something that needs to be done over time. Yes, you can do unconscious work and you can do pattern interrupts and you can reframe and you can do all of those things. But if that nervous system is not regulating the way it's supposed to, it's going to keep coming up regardless of how you're fighting against it. Because now you're just fighting against something that you're not going to beat. Because remember, your nervous system, that's also your unconscious. It's always there to protect you. The intention of the unconscious is always protection. It's the behavior that comes out different. The behavior is the depression. Behavior is anxiety. all of those all of those issues are just behaviors of the actual intention that was intended. So yes, for a nervous system, that's over time. Short, small little exercises, techniques the person can use during the day that rewires that brain. And once that happens, the nervous system realizes you're separate from that problem now. It's actually funny. I just had a client just before I saw you, and we're working with him. He went through a very traumatic experience. I'll just quickly tell you what happened. He was in a accident with a tractor. He's got a farm, works on the farm, and where the tractor and the trailer links, it turns like that, right? His pants got stuck in that. So like three-quarters of his leg was ripped off. The other quarter he had to cut off himself with his little pocket knife. He had to cut through his leg. right? And it's funny, and the reason I'm saying that is something like that, something traumatic like that, takes a while because remember the nervous system wants to protect him so that this never, ever, ever, ever happens again. So anything that jumps up at him during the day, it's anxiety. It's not just anxiety; it's an anxiety attack because the unconscious is saying, "I will make sure that your leg is never going to have to be taken off by yourself ever again. You're never going to go through that trauma. I will get, I will make sure you get a panic attack so you can stay here for the next 20 minutes and rather go through this attack. Something like that, you have to regulate this nervous system over a long period of time to make the unconscious understand the event is over. It's not happening anymore. That's years ago. So you got to separate that nervous system from the actual event. Otherwise, it's going to keep on coming back because the nervous system is there, the unconscious is there to protect you. So that's now a very long answer, but just to get back to it, yes, you need to take a lot of time, a lot of techniques because that's trauma. That's something that's a different category, right?
Mm. So is that like post-traumatic stress disorder when you keep your mind keeps remembering?
Yes. And any small thing will trigger that any small thing that can happen in the day that where we would just go, oh, that's nothing. It's out of my reach. I can't do anything about it. That person will get a panic attack,
Mm.
right? Because that whole drive that comes with it, that whole unconscious, all that baggage, all of that comes along with it, right? It's not just one small little thing, right? It's been building for years. It's in the body. Like we spoke earlier, that sits in his body. There's times where he can't move his body, right? Where he feels he needs to just sit down or go lie down. This is a heart attack. This is now health anxiety. This is now there's something wrong with me. So can you imagine you have all that anxiety? Then once you get the anxiety attack, you get another anxiety attack on top of that because you're anxious about being anxious.
Mhm.
It's like you don't just get out of that. You need to now reprogram. Remember, it's like a program on your computer.
Mm.
If you're running Windows 9, I can't put something in there that's not compatible, right? I need to now go and change that program in order to get a different outcome. So that takes time. Yes, that's nervous system regulation. That takes a while, but
Mhm.
you can do it. Yes.
I work obviously with what I do with nervous system regulation, working with the body itself and the breath. Is there a way that or do we need to even get beneath the consciousness of the brain? Um, can you affect the nervous system in a positive way by reaching the different levels of consciousness within the mind?
Yes. Look, there's no such thing, or well, just according to me, there's no such thing as a deeper state and an even deeper state. Like there's lots of literature on that, and there's actually no science to back it. It's just old literature that you need to go deeper and deeper, and the deeper you get into the state, the better it's going to work. And that's not how it works. And I don't see it as deepening it. I see it as intensifying it, right? But you don't need intensity in order for a suggestion to work. So to answer your question, yes, you can work with a person, even like in your case doing the yoga, it doesn't have to go that deep, that deep, that you have to get through all these layers. You don't even say a word to your people and they get it released. Think about that. They come for yoga, they feel better afterwards. You didn't say a word. But there were still suggestions given through moving the body in certain ways. Through moving like this, there's a suggestion in that. Move your body like this, that's another suggestion you're giving the person. So yes, you can already help those people through a lot of things without having the intensity of going layers and layers and layers. But when it comes to like bigger problems like trauma and stuff like that, you're gonna have to have it's not just the intensity that's needed, but it's the repeating that cycle over and over,
Mm-hmm.
right? So someone that's trauma, they're going to come to you once for yoga. That's not going to get rid of their trauma. Do you understand what I mean? So it's going to help them a lot with their trauma. It's going to help start getting rid of some of those feelings that they always feel when they come and see you, 100%. But to answer the question, no, you don't need to go through layers and layers and layers. Like with my work, it's conversational. So it's like this. We have a conversation, but I'm talking to your conscious mind, but I'm also talking to your unconscious at the same time. I don't need you to have your eyes closed. I don't need you to lie on the bed and be on the moon in order for me to get suggestions across, right? Like earlier, I could help you to feel a feeling without you closing your eyes. It wasn't necessary, right? But to work through trauma, that's going to take time. So it's going to take a lot of, and this is why I want to start this community where it's, and that's why I approached you, is to start this community where we approach it from different angles to help someone. It's not just hypnosis is the only way. That's the only way that you can save someone. It's not. It's not. Like I'll have to limit myself in order to believe that. And I don't. There's no ways. There's other ways. Yoga is one of the ways. Like that's a angle, right? Then you can also go to a hypnotherapist to cover that angle. You cover the body, the hypnotherapist cover the mind as well. And then you can also go see someone for, I don't know, for breathing, right? Or sound healing. There's all these different modalities and they're all doing the same thing, right? They're all there to help the person. Hence why I want to start this community where if someone comes to me, I can tell them, listen here, I think it's a good idea that you also go and see Laura so that you can move your body, so that we can start getting those things loose within the body. Because what am I doing? I'm then already suggesting to the person that you need to go move your body and you'll feel better. If he then comes to see you, he accepted my suggestion and he will feel better coming to see you because that's how suggestion works, right? So if you can help this person from four, five, six different angles, it's a more holistic, it's a better holistic approach to help the person instead of saying, who is me? I know hypnosis. I'm the best. This is the only way to do these things. You only need to come to me. Don't go to anybody else. That's just so egotistical. Then you're just in it for making the bucks. I'm in it to help the person. And if I need to show you a way to someone else that can help you better than me, that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm not just going to keep it for myself. No.
Absolutely. I so totally agree with all of that because a person is not just a physical body, not just a mind, but a massive, massive energy that most of the body, you can't see with the physical eyes because it's energetic and it's invisible. And there's so many layers that like you say, to say this is the only way that's just cannot even be true because
That can't.
there's just too many levels to it. Yeah, definitely. um and I love the idea of creating a community of people who can help and
Yes.
guide and maybe a little bit here, a little bit there, and then you get to the bottom of it. Okay, I have another question. If someone came to you, I wonder if they would even come to you in the first place. Okay, I'm thinking about people who have suppressed their trauma to the point where they can't even remember it. But say a family member witnessed it and so knows that it happens, but they can't help that person because that person just has no recollection. Is it possible to access that, and how do you deal with that kind of really repressed trauma?
Okay, so the trauma that the person had, even if the person can't remember what that trauma is, it doesn't matter because there is a problem in their life currently, right? Where let's take anxiety. So let's say they're always anxious, but they can't remember that there was ever any traumatic event,
Mm-hmm.
right? With that person, I never just go try and do a regression. Regression is my last resort. I only
Mm-hmm.
do regression if everything else all fails, right? I do a regression. That's normally only in trauma, right? Because they embed it away so far, like you say. So with that person, I'll do a lot of other techniques first before I get to regression. Now, to get back to the question, let's say we're going to do a regression. So your question is, how do I know where that is in their past if they don't know that themselves? So yeah, yes, it's very similar to what I did with you earlier. Well, I asked you, it was just the other way around. I asked you to go back to a time where you felt good, right? Okay. So with regression, it's the same. I go on the feeling the person currently has, which is the problem. Let's say it's anxiety. So let's say you've got the anxiety. I will go with that feeling that you feel. That's your problem. That's why you came to see me, is the anxiety. With that feeling, I take you back. So I'll ask you to go back to I'll get you in a trance, nice trance state first, and then I'll ask you to go back to a time in your past where you also felt that feeling. The unconscious will immediately go back, right? Then I'll ask the person, where are you? What's happening? And they'll be like, oh, I'm 12 years old. Or then I'll try and take them back before the age of 10, like I said earlier, because that's where the trouble started, right? So then I always try and get back to the state with that same feeling. I regress them back. Okay, now we need to go back to a time even before the age of 10 where you felt that exact feeling, nothing else, that
Mhm.
exact anxiety feeling, that problem that you've got. We're going to go there. And instantly that person is there. And then we can work through that trauma. We can work without the person having to experience the trauma again. It's not necessary. We can
Mhm.
run through that scene, whatever the scene was, without the person actually experiencing that same event again. It's not needed.
Mhm. Yeah, I love that because I think that what can make people so afraid of actually reaching out and asking for help and going to any kind of therapy, whatever it might be, is the fear of having to relive it and to face it again. And I am
No
of
need to.
the same belief as you that you don't need to go back into it in order to release it. You know, the way I work with releasing trauma is obviously through the body, and if you can get it out of a wherever it's blocked in the body, then you don't need to go through it again. You may still have and probably will have an emotional reaction because that's part of the.
Yes. Yes, you're right. So to get back to that, you're 100% right. It's not always necessary to go back. If you get a puncture in your tire now, is it necessary for us to reverse and go find out? No, we don't have to. We can just take it out right now, right? But sometimes it is necessary to go back. And if I do go back, I
Mhm,
first get the person into a resource state. So I'll
mhm,
first get you into a comfortable, powerful state where all your resources are. And as an adult, I'm going to go show you the event. But we'll go through the event in 2 seconds. It's like 2 seconds we go through the event, but with you feeling empowered, right? You go
mhm,
through that a few times, you'll cycle through that, but it's quick. It's okay. We're in the beginning of where that event happened. You there? Yes. Okay, there we go through it. Okay, it's done. You're on the other side again, feeling good. Yes. So you loop that a few times. So you're teaching the unconscious to separate from the event that you are here, you are safe, and you are now an adult. Then I'll take the adult back to the child because the adult, you have already been through the problem. You're already 40 years later. You've learned a lot of other resources. Then I'll take you as the adult and I'll put you with that child, which is you. I'll put you with that child to comfort that child and explain to the child it's okay. You've done 40 years after the event. Everything is perfectly fine. We do not have to go back there. And then it's a bunch of forgiveness. Who do you want to bring in to forgive that was maybe part of that event or that trauma? Let's bring them in, talk to them, explain to them how you felt at that time when you were 3 years old, when a spider ran over your hand. Explain to them that they were supposed to be there to squash it or to spray it with some doom or something. Then there's a forgiveness, right? And then there's a complete release. And then the person realizes they don't have to sit with that issue anymore. They're not 3 years old anymore. They are now 40. It's not
mhm.
necessary anymore. So the
Yeah.
unconscious, there's a relearning for the unconscious. And now we got that new gravel road that we are going to start paving now.
Mhm. Yeah. As you're talking, that's bringing up ideas for future conversations
Oh, good.
with time and the past and the future and healing and yeah,
Oh,
quantum
good.
physics. So yeah, we'll have to think about that for the future. Um,
Definitely. I mean,
Many of the women I work with are moving through identity shifts in midlife. How does subconscious work support someone in letting go of who they've been?
okay. So I would work with, first of all, I would work with how is it a problem for you now to still have the identity you had? So what's the problem now in your life that's telling you that it is a problem and you need to change identity? The old identity is not good enough. Then the conversation will start. So with something like that, it's that's why the techniques I use and the modality I use is so great, because we keep it within the conversation. I can't tell you exactly the script I'll use. There's no scripts, there's no ways, or I just follow certain principles and I keep it within the conversation. So with identity, I would first find out always, how is it a problem for you? How is it a problem for you to wanting to shift into a new identity?
Hmm.
What is it about a new identity that makes you think you got a problem? That's another question, right?
Mm.
And the questions I ask will be questions for you to go inside, to go and find those answers. Next, after that, if once I got the answers as to why it is that you would want to change and how to change, I would then work along with the unconscious. Like, what is the benefits for you to have this new identity?
Mm.
How does your life change with this new identity? And with all of that, that's what I would, that engine is what I would then use to make the transformation. Because so it's first find out the problem, why do you want to change? And then what is it that you want to change? And now here's how we're going to change it. With suggestion, with principles, with techniques. That's how we will change it.
Mhm. I think that's such a useful tool for people, even if they don't think that they're suffering with any kind of anxiety or anything in particular, because I believe that we're conditioned in the Western world to have such cut and dry beliefs about aging, for example, and which have historically been not empowering to women,
Yes,
just as a demographic. And when you reach my age and you go through menopause, and first of all we've been bombarded with all sorts of things that has not kept our bodies in alignment or balance, like being encouraged to go on the pill,
yes,
for example, which is an intake of hormones, which my own belief is
yes, yes,
controversially maybe, but that's just the way that my body works.
yes,
Especially having had my own experience taking the progesterone only injection years ago. So I never took hormones again after that, after I stopped that, because I saw the results of it and it wasn't natural.
good.
So I stopped. So you come out the end of all of that, and then the society has been conditioned to believe that you're past your sell by date, then you are, all sorts of negative implications for a woman going into this transition. So then you've got this belief intact, and then of course, well, the way I see it anyway, is that of course everything gets thrown out then, because number one, your hormones aren't in as they should be to be able to support your transition naturally.
Yes, yes,
And then you start taking HRT, for example, which is short term benefits.
mm,
But again, I can't help but think, what are the long term results of that?
yes,
You're messing with the natural chemistry of your body.
yes,
And then for me, it's the beliefs. Like, for me, you shape your world with your beliefs. So if you have that in place as a belief system, then you are low in self-worth. You feel you have no value to society anymore. You feel unattractive. You feel so many things.
yes,
Plus, you're navigating these hormonal imbalances, and then
yes.
you get told, "Oh, you're just menopausal. You're just being menopausal." And every time you feel an emotion, you're told that. And if I just do one thing in this lifetime, it would be to empower women into reclaiming what is naturally ours, which is this
Yes,
beautiful sacred transition into being a wise older, or whatever,
yes,
say, woman, because we've gone past our childbearing years, and now we are stepping into our wisdom, which is beautiful, and
yes.
certain cultures absolutely revered as it should be.
Yes, and it's media. I mean, like you said, it's all this media saying that, well, suggesting. getting old is an issue, you've gone past your sell by date. And the problem is, again, you're doing hypnosis on yourself then, because you're self-suggesting all of these things that you hear on the media. Oh, I'm worth nothing. Oh, I'm too old now. Those are all suggestions you're suggesting to yourself. So you're putting yourself in a trance of menopausal issues, if that
Yeah,
makes any sense.
absolutely. Then become absolutely concrete for you because you feel you are in such a state. You've got hip pain, you've got hot flashes, you've got emotional roller coaster going on. It's real, it's real what women feel.
Yes.
And that, I think that's why it's so hard to step out of, because of this
Yes.
hypnotized
Yes.
put,
100%.
put yourself into.
And then they see those suggestions every day on the reels or whatever they're watching. They're seeing those suggestions get given to them all the time. Here's a very good example. Do you know how many people sit with a lot of problems due to what happens at surgery? There was a case with a guy that had erectile dysfunction, right? And when he went for hypnosis, because he couldn't find out where it came from, there was nothing. The doctor said he's fine. Even went to a psychiatrist. They tried everything. Eventually, like always, last resort, they go and they see a hypnotherapist. So he went and gone to this hypnotherapist, and they did a regression. And it started with him being on going for surgery, just like a normal standard, nothing major surgery. But whilst he was under, remember, you just unconscious then. There's no conscious faculty, right? You're unconscious. It's still online. You can
Mm,
still hear everything. All your sense, everything is still working. So whilst he was on the operating table, the doctor, which is an authority figure, right, suggested that it's small, right? That's all he said. Oh wow, look at that there. That's so small, right? That's all he suggested. And since that day, that man had erectile dysfunction because his unconscious took in that suggestion and said, I will make sure that thing never, ever, ever works so that no one can ever laugh at it ever again. So I'll make sure that thing stays that way. And I mean, he had marital problems because of that for years, just because of one suggestion that was given on the operating table. And it grates me because there's no regulation. There's no regulation. There was another case now that I saw the other day. Let me just think how the story went. I know this doctor, she was struck off the roll, and she got a massive court case against her now. I just can't remember the exact story, but it was also something like that. She said something, and oh, he had his phone on record. He had his phone on record to remember what the doctor is telling him while his anesthesia is starting to work. He wanted to record so that afterwards he can understand what's going on and what she said, because he might start losing consciousness while she's talking, right? So he recorded, but it stayed on record. And the things that she said while she was doing the operating on him or on the woman, I can't remember if it was a guy or woman, was horrible, right? And that person had issues because of those suggestions and found it in the recording. Luckily, it was on his phone. And then realized this is why. That woman, I must actually go find it. I'll send it to you. There's an article on it. She's in very big trouble. She struck off the roll, and she's getting sued for a hefty amount. But it shows you that even though this happens, there's no regulation. It's not like they're saying, hey, let's start regulating this. Might be something worth our while, for the sake of people.
and well, she's been struck off, but what about how we're all put into a trance from the day we're born, through media, through subliminal messages coming out of the television or screen, social media, newspapers, billboards, supermarkets, everywhere we go.
If you go look at a mentalist, if you go look at someone that does mind magic, they use subliminal messaging, right? And once you start understanding, or once you start looking at how they do it and understanding the method behind it, it's the smallest of subtlest subliminal messages that you do not even think you're going to pick up on. And they will reveal that number or card, and it's something that was suggested to you in the smallest the smallest of ways that you consciously didn't see. It's not like there's this big, it could be so subtle. So if that is that powerful, how much more powerful is it to the people that's got the power, right? That's the influencers on TV that they can do it in your face. You're not even going to realize it. You're not going to realize it. You just feel bad or anxious and you don't know why.
How how do you explain then someone who is able to recognize that there is this, we're being hypnotized all the time, and wish and desire to uncondition themselves because they realize that that's happened, and then I'm talking about myself through my
Sure. Yeah.
experience.
Mm.
I recognize that it was when I was in the supermarket one day and they first introduced those screens. This is years ago. And I suddenly, why does my brain work like this? It's so weird. I suddenly realized what was happening. And I said to myself, we're being hypnotized. I even felt like how it was very hypnotic. And I understood. And I said to myself, but they put all these in place so that we go in and we only want bread and we come out with a whole trolley. And that annoyed me. So I said to myself, right, I'm not going to go to the supermarket. I'm boycotting the supermarket and I'm only going to shop locally for everything, which I
Yes.
did for about 3 months.
Mm.
And then one day I finished my shift at work and I work nights. So I was on my way home and I needed bread and milk. That's all I needed. But there was no other shops open in town. So I said to myself, this is the moment where I'm going to test myself and see if I can go to
Yeah.
the market and just buy bread and milk. And sure enough, I did. And
Sure.
to that day, I have understood the conditioning, from when we're tiny, all of it, the whole bigger picture of how we are hypnotized as a humanity to behave in certain ways and to follow the system and to do this and do that and believe that we're worthless when we reach menopause and all of it. I don't believe for a second that there's not layers of hypnosis going on because I'm a human. But how have I managed to maintain that? And how have I managed to step out of it in the first place without no one told me that. I just did it. Why?
You probably just you got aware of it. You became aware of it and saw through it. You were ready to see through it.
But that just blows my mind because it's
Definitely.
rife and
Because that's not easy. That's not easy for like someone that doesn't know, right? Because even for the person that do know, you're still going to get caught. I promise you, because your unconscious is going to pick up on the things. They know that, right? It's just like in my work as well. I have had so many people that say they can't get hypnotized, and if you got a problem, you hypnotize into thinking you got a problem. So yes, you can get hypnotized. Any person with a problem is hypnotized into that problem, right?
mm,
So even like that's a good example because the people will come and I can't get hypnotized and it's can't that thing's going to work and then once it does work they realize sure it's so much more powerful because I know how to talk to the unconscious regardless your conscious can tell me you can't and the hypnosis don't work if I talk to your unconscious, it's going to listen. It's the same way that in that same way, that's how the subliminal messages work. You can stay there, you can stand there and you can say, oh, this screen, I can see the screen, it's doing this to me. I'm not going to fall for it. But as you look to the other side, you're seeing a bunch of ads that you unconsciously saw that you didn't pick up, and you're seeing Coca-Cola and yeah, you know what? While I'm here, I'm just thirsty. I'm just going to get a Coke. But you just realized that they caught you but while you scanning the room thinking about that, you already got another message, another suggestion that came in. It's very difficult. So what I'm trying to say is it's very difficult to safeguard you against these things because you're going to become aware of some of the things, but some of the stuff you're not gonna be aware of it. It's just to become as aware as you possibly can. That's your only that's your only safety.
mhm.
But they're still going to get you. I can promise you. Because even if you can be as aware as you are, and you can go watch a show, a mentalist do a show. I don't know if you know Darren Brown. If you go watch Brown's show, the messaging and the subliminal messaging starts the time that he invites the people to his show already. They don't even realize that the words on there is already suggestions. And you can go sit there and think, oh, none of this worked on me, but it all worked on you because it's all suggestion. It's just how it is. You can, like I say, become more aware to an extent, but there's still that piece that they're gonna get you.
Okay, so how do you feel about this? A way of sort of defragging, if you like, because we go out into town and we're watching telly or whatever, or our screens or social media, and we're receiving suggestions all the time.
Yes.
I would maybe suggest that a really great way of releasing would be to go out into nature, because
Yes, for sure.
nature is not suggesting anything, it just is.
Yes, you're right. You can ask yourself if once you become aware of it, you can ask yourself questions. You can ask, what am I feeling now and why am I feeling this? So if it's a subliminal message, I'm feeling anxious, but I don't know why, then it could be a subliminal message. Or you can look around, oh, it's because I'm watching. Look at what I'm watching. I'm watching a horror where people are eating each other. So, you know, I should feel anxious. So you can ask yourself those questions, what am I feeling now and why am I feeling that? Oh, I'm feeling this and it's because I thought of it. Okay, so it's not a subliminal. Well, you could have still thought about it because of a subliminal message, but that's the only way to safeguard yourself. But I mean, no one's going to do that 24/7. You can't walk around that 24/7. What am I feeling? Why am I feeling it? Right? So I would just worry about the big things. Like if you're always feeling bad, if you're always, and there's no reason for it, then you must maybe check what are you scrolling? What are you watching online? Right? Take that away and see if it feels better. Then you know that was the suggestions you were given and that's why you were feeling the way you were. But
Mm-hmm.
that's probably the only way you can safeguard yourself. And yes, like you said, you can go into nature because there the messaging is just natural. There's no subliminal messaging, right? Meditation can help a lot, but that's only in that time then. I mean, you can finish your meditation or finish your walk in nature and the first billboard you see is already a subliminal message. You just can't get away from it. You must go do yourself a favor, go watch Darren Brown.
Uh-huh.
It's going to change your mind. It's going to open parts in your brain. I promise you. It's incredible. It's you sit there and then you really only realize, wow, I never knew subliminal messaging is this powerful. It
Uh-huh.
really is. Like you can't believe until you see it.
I can imagine. I can totally imagine. Yeah, I'll definitely check him out, sure.
Go check him out.
If someone listening feels a bit disconnected from themselves, where would you suggest they begin?
I always ask a lot of questions. I would ask, what is it about feeling disconnected now that makes me want to connect again?
That's deep.
Yes. You have to go inside to get the answer.
Yeah, that would, I think that might have to be like a card for someone to remember to think that, because I think when you're
Yes.
connected, you just you lose any idea of anything, don't you? And just
Yes.
onto that disconnected
What,
feeling.
what what happens when I ask you the question? What is it about feeling disconnected that makes you want to feel connected?
Because I love feeling connected. Because I love life so much. I've always been like that. I think that's been what sort of saved me really when I was going through all my trauma and when I ended up having panic attacks. And I just even in that darkness, I remembered how much I love life. Even
Yes.
though the whole of my life from the day I was born into abuse and toxicity and trauma and all of it. But I just loved life so much. And I said to myself, there's no way I'm living the rest of I was only 19 at the time, and I said,
Oh,
way I'm living the rest of my life feeling like this because it feels horrible and
yes.
I wanna live my life. You know, the wonderful wonder of life. I wanna max out the amazingness of it.
Yes. So aside from maxing out your life, what are you, Laura, beyond that?
I'm just being. I just be. That's one of my favorite things is yeah, just
To
being.
be good.
Yeah.
How does it make you feel to be good?
Oh, calm,
Be-
peaceful, and just yeah.
And there you're feeling it again.
Yeah, yeah. Because even people want to be, or some people might get this idea of like, I just want to be happy all the time. But even in that happiness, it's an imbalance. It's like a heightened state of feeling. And when I feel that beingness, that's when my body just goes.
Yes,
That's what I love about the end of a yoga class is all of that. It just comes in, and everything that was crazy and in your mind is gone, and you're just here. And then that is when people find it really hard to meditate, and I understand why. And to me, that's why a yoga practice is so helpful, because it brings you to that place without you trying. Because like if you
yes,
try and meditate, it's it's not going to happen.
yes. You're right.
And then you come at the end, and this is where I'm not even guiding the practice anymore. I bring everybody out of the relaxation and we do our final grounding. And then everyone just sits there, and I don't tell them to do that.
Wow.
They just sit and stay and be.
Yes. Well, that's you guiding them as a hypnotist. You are suggesting that by doing it as the example, they following suit. They following you. That's a suggestion. You're suggesting to them, let's relax. You don't have to say it, but let's just be. Let's
Mm,
just be. And you said that's how you feel afterwards is because you did hypnosis. It's a form of self-hypnosis. You come in feeling icky and you leave feeling great and feeling centered and as a being. You're just being, right? That's because of your own self-hypnosis through your practice. So
yeah,
so you can do self-hypnosis through yoga. Yoga self-hypnosis. It's actually not a bad idea.
that's how I've self-healed, is through my own suggestion, through my own yoga practice, and through, I've only, in my whole life, I've only had two therapists, one of whom I would recommend stops being a therapist. Um, and other than that, my sister, she's trained as a hypnotherapist as well, and she did
Wow.
a very short session. I was a guinea pig actually, because it was when she was doing her training,
Okay.
so it was literally 20 minutes. And other than that, my therapy has been my own personal journey through my yoga, my breath work, and my own shadow work that I do. And I think, like you say, is that self suggestion. My
Yes.
belief is if I do all of these things, then I will get into that state of loving my life again. And that's exactly how I feel now.
Yes.
I've felt for, but even when I'm going through trauma, I still manage to find, the joy in life. The trauma is part of the journey, the ups and downs, it's all part of it anyway. It's not something that we're trying to get rid of. It's a constant
Yes.
learning.
You're right. And I think the reason you are so successful with it is because with in my practice as well, the most important thing is my state. The state I occupy is what their unconscious is going to pick up on, right? So if if I'm in a state where I'm anxious and you coming to see me for anxiety, your unconscious is going to pick up the person trying to help me is anxious. So he can't help me. So the it's probably the biggest thing I would say in hypnotherapy in my practice for me is the state that I occupy. I'm in a state of solution already. So when you come see me, I'm already in the state of solution. I can probably pinpoint it that you're gonna have a good experience. It's like we're sitting in a room, a dark room. We both sitting there. I know exactly where all the furniture are. You've got no idea. It's your first time there. I know exactly where all the furniture is, right? I know you must just get up and put switch on the light, and you will see exactly what I'm seeing. And I'm seeing it already, but you just need that light switched on, then you're going to see the exact same thing. It's like, I know the present is there. I know what's inside of the box. You just need to unwrap it, right? You just need to take off all the wrapping, but I know what's inside there. That's my state when I do therapy. And what I'm trying to get at is I think that's why you are so powerful with what you're doing because your state is already the correct state. That's why they're still sitting there calm when you're finished, because that's your state. They're following your state. You can try it. Go change your state once. Go make your state negative and give a session. You will have a completely different experience. And so will your people. If you were nervous or anxious, they're going to feel it. I can promise you that.
Yeah, definitely. Agree. Okay, so I have one last question. What does it mean, in your view, to feel at home within yourself?
For me personally,
For you personally, and is that what, whatever it is for you personally, is that what you would say to another person?
so for me to feel at home for myself would be that state I use in my therapy. It's where I get to access my resources. That's where I feel at home, because then anything can come up my driveway and I'll be able to handle it because I'm at home. I'm at my resources, not someone else's
Mm-hmm.
or not some other belief. It's actual state that I can occupy right now.
So each person would have to find what's unique for them in that case.
Yes, for sure. Look, what you can do if you want to find a good resourceful state, the easiest way is to, like I did with you earlier, think of a time where maybe with a loved one, that makes it a bit more powerful. Think of a time you spent with a loved one where you had joy and excitement and everything was great and you felt good and you can feel that feeling now, right? Then you separate that feeling from the memory. So you sort of put the memory in the distance while you still maintain that state, while you still maintain that feeling. That would be my way of helping someone to feel that at home state for sure, because you're in your state of resources then. It could be any memory, it doesn't matter, as long as it's positive. And I would suggest with a loved one, because there will be more connection and more energy around it, right? It'll be
Mm-hmm.
more impactful. So that's a way that I would suggest someone to get to that state. Is just think of something or someone or an event with someone where you felt really, really good. And then once you've got the feeling, once you can feel that feeling, just separate it from the memory, put the memory into a distance, maybe make it black and white and make it really, really small, far away from you. Now you've got that feeling, right? And then you can anchor that feeling if you really wanted to as well. But yeah, that will be my technique to get to that state.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And where can people find you if they're interested in following your work or getting in touch with you? I'll put the links in the comment.
Got a website that's thealchemistlab.site.
Mhm.
And then my Instagram, that's thealchemistlab.official. There you will find most of my work.
So thank you so much, Duane. This has been
Thank you so much.
a rich and expansive conversation.
That was amazing. Thank you.
You're so welcome. Yeah, it feels like we've touched on both the depth of the subconscious and the importance of coming back into the body, which is what we both work with, really. Yes, thank you. Thank you once again.
Thank you. Thank you.
I hope this conversation has offered you a doorway into your own inner landscape.
Thank you.